The title of this Headless Professor video is Who is a Christian? It's interesting that each Christian denomination seems to have its own definition for who qualifies for this label as being a Christian. Most denominations put themselves right at the center of Christianity and then judge the other denominations in terms of how closely they approximate that particular definition of the denomination which is doing the defining. So let's suppose that you are a Baptist. So you define Baptists as the very center and heart of Christianity. And then Baptists would tend to judge other denominations based upon how close they are to the Baptist center. And so we might have other churches like the Missionary Alliance. Well, they're not too far from the Baptist. Yeah, I guess they qualify as Christians. What about Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ? Well, they're pretty close to. Let's give them a roll. What about Pentecostals? Well, they baptize adults, but is their theology that close? Well, most of the Pentecostal churches would probably qualify according to most Baptists. What about Seventh-day Adventists? Well, they've got a few extra theological things, but at least they baptize adults. Perhaps they qualify too. What about those Methodists? They don't baptize adults, but their theology's otherwise pretty good. Maybe the Methodists qualify. And if the Methodists qualify, maybe the Lutherans qualify as well. What about, Episcopalians? They've got a little bit more ritual, but I guess they're close enough. And then, what about Orthodox Christians? Well, they're a little bit further out. Maybe they also qualify, just barely. What about the Catholics? They've got extra stuff. Yeah, I certainly would qualify Catholics as Christians. They certainly regard themselves as stuff. Oh boy, trying to get the Catholics and the Episcopalians together is sometimes difficult, but I think we're going to do this here. Now, what about Mormons? Most Baptists would say the Mormons don't qualify, and the Jehovah's Witnesses don't qualify. And, well, what are the criteria that I would prefer to use in determining who is a Christian and who isn't? I have 3 criteria that I would like to use. First of all, the denomination that we're classifying, how do they define themselves? Do they define themselves as Christian? Well, Catholics do. Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons also consider themselves part of the Christian tradition. A second factor is what's the view of Jesus? Is Jesus more than just a man? Is he some kind of spirit being? Now, both the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses would agree with that, although their view of Jesus is not exactly the same as most mainline Trinitarian doctrine that most Christian denominations accept. Finally, my third criterion is whether or not the denomination accepts New Testament as Scripture. Well, Catholics certainly do, and so do Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. Now, Catholics and Mormons also have some other Scripture that most Protestants don't have, but they do accept the New Testament as Scripture. Now, based upon those criteria, I would definitely include Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mormons as part of the Christian tradition. So who would I exclude? I would exclude Jews and Muslims. And here's why. Jews and Muslims do not regard themselves as Christians. Now, many Jews respect Jesus as a wise rabbi. Muslims regard him as a divinely inspired prophet, but not as a spirit being, a human being. Neither Muslims nor Jews regard the New Testament as part of its sacred canon. And for those reasons, I would not include Judaism or Islam as part of the Christian tradition. By the way, this cross that we're using is a Catholic crucifix. And who is on the crucifix? I think that's Jesus Christ. Yes, Catholics are Christians.